But I'm so excited to introduce my next independent candidate onto the list because my brain is spinning just trying to rationalize the areas he's contesting in. We've got Mr. Louis Petrus Liebenberg. He's a regional candidate for 4 provinces, would you believe? The Free State, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. Mr. Liebenberg, I don't even have the breath capacity sometimes to try and encapsulate all those regions in one. Very warm welcome to Newsbreak Talk.
How are you? Yeah, the interesting thing is my father was first a civil engineer and then a pastor, and he traveled the whole country, and we stayed in 37 houses whilst I was in school. And I'm speaking to you from a small town called Nolloth in Namakwaland, where I dig diamonds. So that's what I do for a living. And I just thought more people need to know about it. I don't know anything about politics, but I do understand a lot about money, and that's what our people need.
Okay, so how do you ensure that the money stays where it needs to be? I mean, you just said that you don't know too much about politics, but there is financial backing.
Yes.
Often we hear that power leads to corruption.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was a legal student. That's what I did. I lectured a bit in law, in Latin and Roman law, just on a practical level. I come from a staunch Afrikaans background, and I'm very proud about my language. So I've got the Waarheid Radio, and I'm very much involved with poetry in groups and stuff like that. I've also been in the financial world in Southern at the time, for 12 years. So I've had a bit of experience in business, and I had a lot of my own business. And that's the one thing that we need to look after, and that's our small businesses in South Africa. And we tend to forget that, especially during COVID. We destroyed our small businesses, and I think we can be very sorry about it because we're suffering the consequences of that right now.
Yeah. So let's talk then about, I'll come back to that point because it was particularly interesting to me, the whole thing about the sort of business financial aspect within the National Assembly. I think that's a fascinating point. But I mean, for provinces, how do you do it? I mean, what is it going to, if it goes your way, it's going to equal to 4 seats where you get to affect more change? And how then are you going to actually keep tabs on all these provinces?
I tend to differ from the previous views of maybe a listener or some of our independent candidates. I think it's very clear to everybody in all the papers. I think they wrote about 370 articles about me, and that might be one of the reasons I thought, okay, I'm now more well-known than Ramaphosa. I might as well stand for a position, just on a tongue-in-cheek type of approach here. Yeah. But, every single person in this life can make a difference. And the minute that you start believing that you can do it and talk what you dream about and the vision that you have, you can get some people to support you. And that's exactly what I've done in business. I got a lot of people, and they call me a pyramid scheme operator and a crook and whatever you can be seen. But the minute that groups stand together and they pool money together and they start doing something in the economy, we can take on the Ramaphosas and the Ruperts in this country. And do not just go and lie down and say, well, we don't have 70% of our taxes come from 70 companies in South Africa. That is totally wrong. The ratio is totally wrong. And therefore, we're suffering with 54% of our people living below the breadline.
Yeah,
and they feel as though it's not Vox Populi Vox Dei. They've got no voice at all.
Absolutely.
But obviously, I do align myself with President Zuma very much so, and everybody knows that.
So,
but
there's
a lot of things that we don't necessarily.
Yeah, just a second, Mr. Liebenberg. I want to ask you on that. Like you mentioned the poverty line, and how bad the situation is for basic South Africans to really try and make ends meet. So on one hand, you've got that, and the other, it's the macroeconomics of it, trying to really rebuild South Africa's economy. What are you going to do? Really, where's your focus going to be? The person on the ground with no food, or somebody wanting to set up a corporate somewhere?
Well, the thing is, I'm already doing that. I'm feeding 2,600 people on a daily basis. I've got about 300 people working for me from nothing from 3 years ago, and taking over the mines in South Africa. The one thing I do differ from our dear friends like Carl Niehaus and Julius and so on, we can't reinvent the wheel. We can't go back on democracy. Democracy works, and the Constitution works, but we need to make money, and we can't go go back to what Russia was doing to the rest of the world at the time. So there's a few differences in terms of view. But what we do agree upon is that the mineral wealth should be in the hands of ordinary people and not in the hands of the state, because whatever the state did with whatever they got, we can take Elixcore here in Namaqualand. I mean, they are bankrupt. They've been bankrupt for a very long time because the state is trying to do business. If the state can get out of business and they do administration that they can be good in, and they employ the right people, and they stop this BEE at all costs, and everybody can be appointed on merit. I mean, we're down the line now 30 years, and surely we could have sorted that out by now. And I think a lot of politicians are just playing a game just to be in government next year. I think if an average minister doesn't get salary for 2 months, they're on the street basically. At the moment, there's no pension fund, there's no looking after people. We've seen it with Carl Niehaus, 43 years in the ANC. The ANC kicks him out, and he has to beg and borrow and steal. I mean, that's Mr. a terrible situation.
Time to wrap up. Time to wrap up.
Yes, sorry. I'm being very blunt.
Messages of support coming as well. Elise Human says, Mr. Louis Liebenberg, a man for the future, doing a lot for ordinary people, providing food and providing jobs. So watch the space. I've got several other messages. No names affixed to them. So a lot of support already coming through for your campaign, Mr. Liebenberg. My final question through to you is, how do you maintain? You're talking a lot about business. You're talking a lot about financially fixing the country, which means a lot of money is going to be needed. How do you maintain a level of transparency? Because like I said, power can corrupt. And this is a big endemic problem in South Africa, in that National Assembly. How do you ensure transparency specifically to the electorate?
I think a very important thing is that we know that all riches flows from God. However way we see God, it flows from there. And we must understand that a person standing in a position of custodianship must look after people like I'm doing. I'm looking after the downtrodden people in Kempton Park. I'm doing the gardens up for the municipality. We're doing the potholes. We're taking control of our towns and wherever we are. And if we can take control, independent or in a political party, doesn't matter, as long as we take responsibility and we fall in love, we start romancing South Africa again, and we understand that Vox Populi is Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God, and we come and say that in Parliament, and we start with proper prayer. Doesn't matter what prayer. We are not so strong, only 4 minutes and then we die. And the politician is just a human being with blood. There's no color, there's no creed. There's just us. There's identity in terms of Zulu, Xhosa, Afrikaans. I'm a fundamentalist Afrikaans person, but I love all people and I love our country, and we're going to stay here, and we're going to make this big difference to this economy, and we're going to rock this world. We've got all the potential with the people and the mineral wealth in our country.
I think on that note then, Mr. Louis Petrus Liebenberg, thank you so much for making the time for us. A regional
Thank you,
candidate,
brother.
Free State, Limpopo, Gauteng and Mpumalanga. We appreciate your time.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So there we go. There's some of our independents who will be contesting the national ballots, the provincial and regional ballots, actually. So we are going to be keeping tabs on these campaigns.